This video will describe the collocation correction rules. The purpose of the collocation correction rules is to change one target word to a different target word based strictly on the environment, the context. And we can double click here and let's look at the rule for build. If we select build, so here's the collocation correction rule for the word build. So we can access these rules through here. But the normal way that we access these rules is to rest our cursor on a concept, for example, build, right-click, edit this concept's collocation correction rule, and show all occurrences of concept. If we select this option, here again is the collocation correction rule for build. And this is also an exhaustive list of all the places where we've used build in our source text and our semantic representations. So to show you how these work, let's say when someone builds a city, we want to use a different word. Let's say they develop a city. So we click on the target word, build, and I don't think we have the word develop. No, we don't. So let's enter the word develop. Developed. You can right-click and enter the reference. Developed. We don't care about this right now, so I'm just going to say OK. To develop. So now, when we change the target word, TBTA assumes that all of the arguments for this verb are relevant. But we don't care if it's Cain who's developing the city. If anyone builds a city, if anyone develops a city, we want the word develop. So we can deselect Cain by clicking on him. And now we see that other places, when the people build a city, they will all be changed to develop. So whenever build, in our source text, whenever we have build a city, now the software will use develop rather than build. For another example, let's say when people build an altar, they want to use assemble. So we can click here. Do we have the word assemble? Yes. And again, it assumes all of the arguments are relevant. So Noah is highlighted in yellow, altar is highlighted, and Yahweh is highlighted. But we don't care who is assembling the altar, so we deselect Noah, and now it's assuming building an altar for, this is the beneficiary column, for Yahweh. But again, we don't care if it's for Yahweh. Maybe the altar is for Baal or someone, so we can deselect Yahweh. And now when we look, whenever anyone assembles or builds an altar, the software will use assemble. Let's use one more. In the verse we're looking at right now, Noah is building a room. So let's say for building a room, we want to say construct. Do we have the word construct? Yes. So, Noah built or constructed a room. But again, we don't care if it's Noah, so we deselect Noah. And now, whenever someone builds a room, the software will use construct. And we can say OK. And we see here that now the concept build is linked to the target word construct. And it tells us in the last line, build was changed to construct by the collocation correction rule for verbs build A. Let's go back to that rule. If you want to clear the rule, you can click up here, clear collocation correction rule. We'll say yes. And now everything goes back to build. You can look at a verse by right-clicking on the reference, and there's the English verse, and if you've already generated this verse in the target language and saved it, you'll see the target language translation up there. You can select verses. After you write a rule that changes one target word to a different target word in a particular context, you might want to regenerate all of those verses. So you can select multiple references and then say, add selected references to problem texts. Do you want to clear the problem text references before adding the selected references? We'll say yes. I'll show you what the problem references are right now. So now we'll say OK. The problem references are over here, where we generate large passages. Here you can generate one passage, like for example right now it will generate the book of Genesis. Or you can generate multiple texts. This will generate multiple books of the Bible. Or you can generate problem text. These are verses that you've set aside. They're causing you problems for one reason or another. And if we look here are the verses that we just added from the Collocation Correction rule. I selected those references and then said add them to the problem text. So here they are. So now we could click the Generate button and the software will translate those particular verses. Let's go back. Let's go back to the Collocation Correction rule for build. So you can say add all these references to the problem text. We'll say no. If you select multiple references, then you can clear them by saying clear selected references. Edit list of occurrences. You should never need to use this. This is for the people who are developing TBTA. Same with the edit collocation correction rule and update occurrences. You should never use these three buttons. Those are for the people developing the software. I'd like to show you one more example in Tagalog. In Tagalog, in English we can say good. We can use the word good for almost anything. Today's a good day. That's a good book. That's a good movie. That food is good. John's a good man. Things like that. But in Tagalog, the usual word for translating the English word good is ganda. So we link good to ganda. But for certain nouns, we can't say ganda. For some, like for example, he's a good man, they use buti. Good flour, they use inam. Good meal, they use sarap. So you can change good to multiple target words based on what the adjective is modifying. Good wine is inam. Let's look at a different one. For example, the word in. Even though we define our prepositions very precisely in our semantic representations, there's almost no chance that there will be a one-to-one mapping from our prepositions to the target language's prepositions or postpositions. If we click here, edit this concept's collocation correction rule, the usual way to translate into Tagalog is nasa. But if something is in a house, they want sa. If you live in a house, put in the middle. Again, if you don't understand what this might be saying, you can right-click. God also put two special trees in the middle of that garden. So put in middle. Put in middle. They want sa for in rather than nasa. So you can come here, bury in a tomb, bury in a cave, they want sa. Sleep in a house, they want sa. So the collocation correction rules change one target word to another target word based on the context.